thanks Elevation for having me here. I think a lot of what I want to say is already said, so I'll keep it short. But I think, and this is, at least my experience in this field is less than a year old, like not even a year old, and I barely know a lot about this field yet. But I've been developing software for 25 years now, so I've seen it, and I was at CMU for about 10 years, and a lot of this foundational stuff was getting done there, and I kind of saw it firsthand, talking and working with a lot of these researchers. But what was really kind of surprising, I think Sriram mentioned it, that nobody saw this coming. Right? This was effectively, and nobody saw the rate at which things are changing. But at the same time, I think this is what Pedro said, right? Like focus on what is not going to change, right? And for us to kind of keep track of things which are changing on an hourly basis. It's not even daily. Like if you open Twitter or LinkedIn in the morning and you go and see what has happened in the evening, things have changed. Now, all of us have a life, and we don't want to be kind of getting into learning about generative AI 18 hours a day, right? Like, and effectively, so to me it's super important, and this is what I tell my team, about 150 engineers at Swiggy, that look, the world is changing and you need to keep track of what is going on, otherwise you'll become a dinosaur. It's super important that you focus on what is not going to change, right? Because there is a much higher chance that you will be successful investing your time there rather than focusing on kind of the noise and the hype and everything around that. So I'll try to distill that down, and I'll try to keep it interactive. I don't have a lot of slides. I sat down yesterday night and put some thoughts there. Like I thought it would be a panel discussion, and but the good thing is I'm here to learn, and I like kind of hearing Sriram, who's like exceptional, and if he was surprised and it kind of came out of left field, like I'm a nobody. So I'll just talk about this and hopefully kind of share some thoughts in terms of how each one of you should think about it. So these are posed as questions, and I don't have the answers, so please don't ask me any questions. If you have the answers, then I'm happy to talk, right? Yeah, the world is rapidly changing, and if you've not read the paper, I really think this is the one that you should read, that GPTs are GPTs, right? So just a show of hands, how many people know what the two GPTs mean in this thing? What is a GPT? Yeah, go ahead.
Generative pre-trained transfer.
Perfect, yeah. So, and what is the other GPT?
General platform, something.
Not really, like I think all of us are learning here. So I think the key is the first GPT was the wheel, right? Like humans invented the wheel and made them kind of do things more efficiently. Like just think about like what would we do without a wheel, or even the internet or semiconductors. So it's a general purpose technology, right? And this is a paper by OpenAI. I put the link here, and it's essentially this is the only link I have, right? So it's essentially GPTs are GPTs, and it's a general purpose technology, right? So you need to think about how can you use to solve problems around you, and that effectively, like I'm not a surfer. I don't think I can ever be a surfer. I don't know anything about surfing, but if you look at the three stages or three roles that Sriram was mentioning, I think we are very like close to be the guy who's sitting on the beach and watching people surf, right? So I'm that guy, like watching. But yeah, exponential curve, I think, like you saw those exponential curves all around, and those are, that's the rage. There are a couple of books about exponential curves. I would recommend that you go and read those books. It's really good about how things are changing, not only in the generative AI world, because there is world outside this, like end of the day, focus on the invariants, and it talks about all things which are super important, right? And then everybody is worried about, like, look, if I'm not doing this, then I'm losing out, right? And they're right, like, if they're not doing this, they're losing out, right? But what are the things that they should be doing, right? Like, they can't be going and trading like on a $1 billion GPU farm, or it just can't happen, right? Like, Sam Altman was in India and said, like, it's hopeless to even try against open AI, right? And I know some of us are still going to kind of give it a shot, but it's just like, it's like trying to become a surfer, or kind of trying to generate a wave, right? Like, I don't think that's happening. And there are debates which are really amazing. There is a debate that I would strongly recommend everybody watch. I don't know the link. I can share it later, but it really talks about, like, some of the smartest people kind of debating for and against why this is not an existential risk, right? And then the chief scientist at OpenAI talking about, like, when will they get to AGI, and what will it mean for us. So to me, this is the world that we live in, and I think you guys are here for that. But I'll focus on, and Shriram talked about this, and this is, to me, this is the crux of the problem, right? Like, if you're going to focus on, like, you're going to bolt on generative AI to everything, so it's kind of building the pets.com when the internet came out, right? Like, and you know how that ended up, right? So you want to be focusing on the Amazons and the eBays and not the pets.com, or kind of putting it like let me build a model for everything. Like 5 years ago, people were building a model for everything, and to me that is kind of just a recipe for disaster, right? Like, you don't want to learn anything, and very soon you'll burn out all the money that you have, kind of focusing on the wrong problem. So figuring out that for your business context, where is the maximum value that you can generate for the business customer, right? And I think there's one takeaway that Sriram also said. I'm glad that we completely agree on that one, right? So finding that thing is super important. Now, I'll talk about some examples of how we're trying to do it at Swiggy, and this is not the exhaustive list. Goda is here, so she can talk a little bit more about other areas also. But if you think about this, right, so customer care is the most thing, and it's a very mundane thing, right? But getting it right is super hard, right? My team is kind of trying to do this for the last 3 months. You can't get it right at a price point which delivers business value. So and at a latency point where you can do this, right? So we kind of getting there, but you can't expose the chatbot to kind of the customer for obvious reasons, right? Like, I'm assuming everybody here kind of knows or have ordered from Swiggy. You can't be kind of angry and talking to the bot about, I'm going to go and order from Zomato or something else, right? And the bot says, yeah, please go ahead and So developer productivity is something amazing, and that is because we are kind of, everybody knows, and I'm going to talk about that, but without talking, everybody knows that is kind of where the ecosystem is today. But it is extremely important that, and we are kind of seeing about 15 to 20%, but this is kind of, scarcity is kind of the mother of all inventions. So we're focusing on kind of, my managers are telling me I need 5 more people. I said I can give you 5 more licenses, right? So you have to work with that and use Copilot, and we are seeing amazing results. So I'll give you an example. So internationalizing our kind of vendor and partner apps kind of extremely hard or time taking in terms of not localizing it for regional languages, right? And we had a hackathon like every other company is having, and this guy was like a HD3, like 5-6 years of experience, and sat down for a day and came back and said, I can basically localize all apps with 100 lines of code, right? And I actually told him, just go ahead and patent it. It's a brilliant idea. The only limitation is it has to be a React Native app. It kind of leverages the Microsoft language translation API. So essentially kind of another learning or like standing the shoulders of giant, and leverages just like changes the standard text prompt with text tag with his own tag, and has a call that it makes to Azure to just translate in any language, right? And then caches it on the phone, and that's it. So it's literally about 100 lines of code, but earlier this work would have taken 12 months to do, right? Similarly, we were able to reduce our driver app size by 6 MB in a few hours by just asking ChatGPT to write a kind of piece of code that will go and find all unused assets in the code, right? And similarly, our ability to generate tests and everything is so we are super excited about this, and this is more around because we just really want to do more with this, right? And similarly, I'll not talk about everything here, but there is a lot of work that we are trying to do in terms of people don't want to run expensive queries or create dashboard, they want answers, right? And luckily or unluckily, Databricks released something yesterday. If you go look for that, it's called, so you can now kind of converse with your data in natural language, right? But there are other implications to that, but I'll come to that shortly. I think this is super important, right? And this came up in different thing, but to me it's an economic argument. So if Google it's not like Google cannot convert their search queries to kind of support generative AI, but if Google did at their scale, right, which is 97% of the internet search traffic, every query is 10x more expensive, right? So just imagine if Google did that, what would happen to Google's stock, right? It's just no-brainer, and then to me it's an economic argument. So you need to kind of, as an organization, go and find your economic equation, right? So for example, for me to invest this in our chat environment, it has to be an economic argument. If I'm going to spend X on a human, because our goal is to provide the best customer service. Like if you guys use American Express, so if you talk to an American Express agent, you will feel like, okay, this is like, I want to speak to this person a little bit more, right? Because the person is so nice. Unfortunately, you can't do that at scale. So the idea is, can you have the machine take care of where is my order or why is it late, right? So basically now we can tell, look, we are having a tech outage, our engineers are working on it, so please don't, like, your order will be on your way. On the other hand, if somebody has a real problem, then the real agent can spend more time with the customer, right? So that is kind of the shifting the investment. It could be the same or a little less, but to drive customer delight. And to me, that is a excellent use of the technology, and that is how you should rewire your brain in terms of how you should think about this, right? And similarly, like effectively in dollars, is it going to contribute to my top line and bottom line? If you don't have that clear in your mind, then please don't get into it, right? Because literally, if you think that by just asking questions to ChatGPT and or Bard, you can kind of feel smart about it, my 6-year-old daughter can do that as well, right? Literally, like she talks to this, and so to me, this is going to the ChatGPT generation in my mind, right? And to me, getting that economic equation in place is extremely important. And the good thing is, because GPTs are GPTs, you can pretty much figure out n number of places where you can leverage it, right? So it's just kind of a matter of looking deep and looking hard. And the good news is that you will find pretty much n number of problems where you have the economic argument plus kind of the application of this new amazing technology, right? Then there are like a lot of other things, like should I invest in open source, proprietary versus whatnot. I think time will tell. Like everything else, I think it's going to be a combination of both, right? So, and this is effectively where I get to keep my job, because it's an engineering problem. I have to say, look, I have to use ChatGPT only 1% of the time, and then rest of the time I'll train a smaller LLM, which is very domain specific to Swiggy, right? Or the problem that we are trying to solve. And only when I don't understand what is the type of problem, what is the question that is being asked, then I'm going to ask this. but then I put a guardrail in between and act as a gatekeeper and not expose this to my customers. Right? And that is extremely critical. For us, we are seeing very meaningful improvement in our bottom line, at least around customer care, right? And kind of, it's again not an easy engineering problem to solve, but we plan to solve it in the next 6 months, do it at Swiggy scale, which is, just to give you some idea, we work with Salesforce, and Salesforce is not able to keep up with the kind of scale we have, right? So if we solve that problem, then I think we have at least some meaningful impact. Again, developer productivity about all. Now, software engineering, this is where my specialization is, and I have kind of good amount of experience doing this. I think the keys are, I've written it down, I'll not go through everything, but the key is to make it to scale, right? So imagine you are going to generate one image, right? That's great, right? But can you keep doing that for the next 5 years, right? How would you create a pipeline which will run efficiently for the next X years, which is actually production grade, which is reliable, which you can actually test out, is based on fundamental engineering principles. So none of that is changing, right? The tool sets will change. Like you'll have LangChain today and you'll have some other technology tomorrow. The key idea is how are you going to build your system to evolve with this rapid change? Because if you cannot, then you're stuck with whatever you have, right? Because the technology is moving fast. Right? So if you are not going to design for change, I'm using something which is 3 months old. But the thing that is happening today is much more powerful and better, right? I think governance plays a huge role. Like how are you going to put? So if you are going to take parallels from the cloud world, people are talking about cloud costs today. Now the learning is, are you going to talk about generative AI cost after 6 years, or are you going to start solving that problem today? Right? So any person with just average IQ needs to start thinking about, look, how am I going to save and not give out all this money to all these companies who are kind of selling the foundational stuff to us, right? And then again, how do you create trade-offs between latencies, context length, all the other things that I think speakers before me have already talked about, right? And to me, the key part is, building part is always easy and it is very short, right? So just to give you some data, 90% of the actual effort in any software project is not in creating the project. It is actually maintaining the project over time. So imagine airline software, or if you guys shopped at Costco, Costco was using a mainframe even 5-6 years ago. That was written 20 years ago, right? Or even more, or airline ticketing software, or even the stock trading platforms that we have, they were written a long time ago. So the idea is, whatever you write today has to kind of stand the test of time. You can't just say, it's solving a business problem and I'll move on to a new problem, and what happens to that piece of software, right? So that, I think nobody knows, because this tech is only 6 months old. So nobody has no clue how this is. So organizations that can solve that problem, I think have a big play here. Similarly, how do you integrate it with existing tech stacks? I'll give you an example. If you use Dynode, so we allow you to kind of choose hundreds of filters, right? So you say, I want to find a cheap veg place which has parking, right? So we have filters for all this because we have very detailed data about these restaurants. The challenge is, or a simple thing that a bunch of guys did in a hackathon is, they converted the natural language into this filter query. So they took ChatGPT and a bunch of filters. So all you have to do is find me veg restaurants with parking, cheap veg restaurants with parking nearby. And taking that query and converting into a set of filters which already were present, kind of unlocked, instead of building something from scratch which is huge, we were able to unlock this in days. And that is how you should start thinking about, okay, how do I take whatever I have leverage this GPT, the general purpose technology, to solve these problems in an incremental fashion. Again, so what are we doing? We are doing basic investments at a platform level, and then kind of all the other things I've written here. Again, this is something I'll not go into details of, but like definitely important for and something that is not changing. So I would strongly kind of ask people to think about what does it mean in your context, right? Again, finally, I'll leave it at that. To me, takeaways for organizations and individuals, right? You basically need to focus on kind of, can you do this in an economical, viable way, demonstrate business value, and kind of base it on some sound foundations rather than kind of just hacking it out. They have a much higher chance, right? And similarly with individuals, everything like focus on what is it invariant, keep track with the trends, and can get used to like understanding how a pre-trained transfer works. Kapathi has a very good tutorial where in Python he goes through and builds out a complete chat GPT equivalent that you can also try out, right? So I strongly recommend that. There are a bunch of courses from OpenAI and other players where you can kind of get hold of what it actually means, right? In essence, it's basically the next token prediction problem, right? And bunch of probability distributions and things like that. But doing it at scale is what is unlocking all the value that we're talking about, right? And Sriram covered that. But that's it for me, and I said I won't take questions. So yeah, no, I was kidding. Like if you anything that I'll try to give an answer quickly. We are running short of time also. I can chat with people afterwards also.